War Machine would make a great Skrull. Alright, let's backtrack. First of all, the Skrull are a race of aliens that apparently exist in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They've been around in the comics forever, since the second issue of the Fantastic Four, but they've never really been in the movies, mostly because it wasn't clear whether Marvel or Fox owned them, since Fox owns the rights of the Fantastic Four and the characters that are from the Fantastic Four comics, like Galactus and the Silver Surfer. But apparently Fox owns some of the Skrull, but not the concept of Skrull. They own a couple of named Skrulls like the Super Skrull, but they don't own the actual race, so the Skrull can show up in the Marvel movies. And it's cool because they're pretty unique as far as Marvel alien races go. Think back. So far in the movies, we've got the Chitauri, the Scarans, the Kree, the Xandarians, the Sovereign, the Centaurians, the Lufomoids, the Krylorians, and the Zobrii. They're all just different colored people. Some are stronger than others, but there isn't much separating the races besides appearance and their level of civilization. But the Skrull are different. See, Skrull have the power to shapeshift, and even further than that, they can take on the memories of the person whose shape they're shifting towards. So they're near perfect copies, which means they're Marvel's body snatchers, or the Thing, but not the Thing from the comics, the Thing from the 80s movie. Anyway, why does this matter? Well, it was just announced at San Diego Comic-Con that the Skrull are going to make their debut in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as part of the Captain Marvel movie. And since the Captain Marvel movie will be set in the 1990s, which means it takes place a decade before the events of the first Iron Man movie, it's reasonable, if not likely, that at least one of the characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now is secretly a Skrull, and has been a Skrull the whole time. Now, the last week or two has been filled with theories concerning certain MCU characters and their potential Skrulliness. A couple of frontrunners have showed up: General Ross, Everett Ross, Sharon Carter, who may or may not have been a Nazi. Just kidding, she wasn't a Nazi. That's a reference to a video made a long time ago, although a lot of those things she does do warrant some suspicion. And I'm not going to pretend that I've cracked the code and I know who the Skrull is, but I have thought long and hard, and I think I've landed on the single character that would make the most sense from the Skrull point of view, be the most fun for the audience, and even address some weird movie things. And that character is James Rhodes, aka War Machine. And here's how I narrowed down the huge MCU roster to Rhodey. Some disqualifiers. I have a feeling the Skrull isn't a character who's moved Thor's hammer. Probably also not a character who's held an Infinity Stone, since doing either of those things requires a magical or supernatural ability that the Skrull almost certainly wouldn't be able to replicate. It also probably can't be someone that was mind-whammied during the events of Age of Ultron. I'm betting it's not a character that's been the subject of a solo movie. I'm even hesitant to choose a character who had a scene where they're by themselves. I also don't think it's a character who we can reasonably assume has had a meaningful relationship throughout the run of the MCU. And this one's tricky just because of the implications that someone's been sleeping with a Skrull. It gets complicated in a face-offy, Revenge of the Nerd, creepy sort of way. Now maybe both of the characters in a relationship are Skrulls, and maybe they don't even know it. That's fun. Hell, maybe Hawkeye and his whole family are Skrulls. That would be cool too, but I'm not going to go in that direction. That's not who I'm looking for. I'm looking for a single Skrull. Now, a couple things about how the Skrull traditionally work. What usually happens is they'll abduct a character, then take the place of that character. Like I said, they get all that character's memories, some of their physical traits. They could probably recreate the powers of, say, a Captain America, but probably not someone like Thor. Although, you never know, because like I said, these rules have not been established. And to further explain this, we have to figure out what the Skrull want. And again, at this point, it's relatively unclear. But if we look at their comic history, it's probably one of two things. The Skrull are interested in their survival and war. Either they're looking for a new planet to colonize, or they're interested in getting resources or weapons from Earth. And as far as alien races go, the Skrull have been on the losing end of a lot of major conflicts, resulting in a crippling of their empire. They faced off against some of the most dangerous beings in the galaxy, including Annihilus, the ruler of an antimatter universe, Galactus, the big giant guy who eats planets, and the Builders, who are the oldest beings in the galaxy and created everything. So yeah, they lose a lot, and with those losses comes displacement. The Skrull have to constantly rebuild their empire, which forces them to sometimes find new places to live. And if the Skrull were defeated before the events of the MCU began and they found Earth to be a suitable new home, they would need to invade. However, the Skrull are mostly known for their warfare. See, there's another alien race known as the Kree. They're the blue ones. Ronin's one of them. They've been locked in conflict with the Skrull forever, and it would make sense if the Skrull need Earth to aid in that that conflict. Maybe they're mining our natural resources to make weapons. Earth might be near some wormhole that they could use to make crossing the galaxy easier. Maybe the Skrull want a specific artifact on Earth. Or maybe, and this is what I'm imagining, maybe the Skrull want to capture our heroes so they can clone powered individuals like Scarlet Witch or Vision or Hulk, and then use their powers to gain an edge on the Kree. So then, how would the Skrull best go about doing that? Well, if I were doing it, I'd probably start by infiltrating the government, maybe getting closer to the levers of power while learning about our planet's defenses. It would make sense to sidle up to a particularly genius arms manufacturer, get a closer look at what he's working on. If that arms manufacturer were to create a weapon that would be useful in the Skrull-Kree war, I might want to help him out and become his best friend. Once I get a chance, I'd steal one of those weapons so I can study it, I'd give it to the government once I'm done so I can become an even more indispensable part of the military. Now, as time progresses, I'd stay close to the weapons manufacturer, keep him alive, learn more of his secrets, and then, when all these other powered individuals show up, I'd get closer to them too, join their team so I can learn more about their strengths and weaknesses. If it looks like the Earth is getting destroyed, I'll help save it. If the arms manufacturer is fighting someone, I'll help him fight him. Sounds like a pretty good plan, right? And why does this work for the movie audience? Well, let's say the fourth Avengers movie is your secret invasion. It's discovered that the Skrull walk among our heroes. Every Avengers movie is just about Iron Man. A lot of the MCU movies are just about Iron Man. And wouldn't it really affect the character of Tony most if his best friend and the one person he believes he can trust has been a Skrull this whole time and he didn't even notice? It would really amp up that paranoia and the stakes for the rest of the movie and give the Avengers a fun enemy in a character that is and also represents the literal Skrull War Machine. Also, there's a specific moment in an MCU movie that foreshadows War Machine being a Skrull imposter. In Iron Man 3, Rhodey gets captured by AIM and his Iron Patriot suit is stolen from him. Then one of the villains wears the Iron Patriot suit to impersonate Rhodes in an attempt to steal the president. In fact, you could make the case that the first outing of War Machine in Iron Man 2 also features a character taking control of War Machine to do their bidding. So really, if Rhodes turns out to be a Skrull, it would be the third time something like that has happened to War Machine. This would also be a fun way to not necessarily explain the difference between actors 1 and 2, but wink at it. Hey, Rhodes sure looks different, almost like there's another person pretending to be Rhodes. And in fact, maybe Rhodes does get switched out between Iron Man 1 and Iron Man 2. Tony makes the Iron Man suit, the Skrulls say, oh man, we gotta get close to that guy, and they kidnap his best friend and military liaison. Finally, which weird movie things does this fix? Well, let's start with Iron Man 2. Rhodey steals the Mark II Iron Man suit. He does so at night, party time, so let's say 2 a.m. He doesn't get to Edwards Air Force Base until the next day, and that base is a 2-hour drive from where Tony lives. He should be able to get there in the Iron Man suit in a half an hour considering these things fly as fast as an F-22 jet, so what took him so long? Was he studying the suit, figuring out how it worked all night, and then when he was finished, he handed the suit over to the Air Force? Also, I don't know if this helps this theory, but I always thought it was strange that in Iron Man 3, Tony doesn't give Rhodey a suit in the big finale because they're only coded to him. So if that's true, then why can he use the Mark II? Between movies 2 and 3, does Tony code these things so that Rhodey can't use them? Or were they always coded that way and Rhodey was able to get around that in Iron Man 2 by using Skrull powers? War Machine also has 2 particularly Skrully moments in Civil War. They both come near the end of the airport fight, so let's start here. Some kind of alien physiology would be a great explanation for why that fall doesn't kill Rhodey, because that's a pretty big fall. I remember seeing that scene in the theater, and when Friday tells Tony that Rhodey's alive, multiple people near me went, wait, what? And I get that it's a comic book movie where crazy things happen and War Machine was crippled by the accident, but man, Rhodey being a Skrull would sure make more sense. And we don't know exactly how the MCU Skrulls work. Can they change their shape on the fly? Do they get the superpowers from the people they change into? Could one become denser at will to survive a big fall? Who knows, but it's possible. Here's the other thing, and this one's easier to miss. So Cap and Bucky have broken away from the pack and they're booking it to the Quinjet. Vision attempts to stop them by destroying a control tower in their path. It isn't going to fall on them, just make it difficult for them to reach the jet. Now, Wanda catches the tower, giving Cap and Bucky enough time to get under safely. But then, right as Cap and Bucky are about to go underneath, War Machine uses a sonic weapon to break Wanda's concentration and drop the tower on Cap and Bucky, right on them, and they barely make it out. Now, burying Captain America doesn't seem like Rhodey's MO, and maybe he misjudged the distance, but again, War Machine being a Skrull who wants to kill Cap and Bucky in that moment makes a lot of sense, especially if the Skrulls see Cap as a threat. And listen, I'm sure there are a lot of fans who would be mad if War Machine turned out to be a Skrull. They think it shortchanges the character who they really like in the movie. I get that. He's got a ton of comic history, and he's been in these movies since the beginning. But we could still give Rhodey some great stuff to do, and even learn more about his character by replacing him. If the Skrull are keeping Rhodey alive because they need him to keep the transformation process going, he can escape and lead a charge on the Skrull ship to free the rest of the captives. Also, wouldn't it be awesome to see both both good Rhodey and evil Skrull Rhodey in the same movie. Give Don Cheadle the freedom to just go wild with a mustache-twirling, tie-to-the-railroad tracks Skrull villain. Don Cheadle is a great actor. It would be a blast. Now, I'm not saying it's a lock. I'm just saying War Machine would make a great Skrull. But those are just my thoughts. Let me know in the comments which other characters you think have been Skrulls this whole time, or maybe some reasons you think I'm wrong. Like or share this video with friends of yours who watch the Marvel movies, or Hotel Rwanda, or Hotel for Dogs. I have a podcast called Mad Bracket Status. We make pop culture brackets. It's fun. If you enjoyed the video, give it a listen. We're on Stitcher, SoundCloud, iTunes, all that stuff. And finally, most importantly, subscribe to this channel. I make more of these videos. I've got one on how all the villains in superhero movies turn out to be gray. I've got one on how Ego from Guardians of the Galaxy seems to be an amalgamation of a lot of other fun Marvel characters. And finally, you can find me on Facebook and Twitter. I am at Nation of Nando. That's all I've got. See you next time.